Good morning, everybody. It's Dee here. Today is the 6th of January, Fête de Roi, for those who are in France. The time is 8 o'clock. And just to say, anybody looking at this on Instagram, you can catch the full video of this on YouTube at DWhiz3. So that's DEEWHIZZ3. So if you want to make sure that you get the whole of this episode, please make sure that you have a look there. So this week is one of the biggest weeks for astrology this year, 2020. And a lot of people obviously have been talking about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which comes towards the end of the week on the 12th. And also the eclipse that will be happening on the 10th. So yeah, quite a lot of heavy duty stuff going on this week, but it's nothing new. That's the thing that you've got to remember about all this stuff that's happening this week, and a lot of the big kind of boogeyman kind of, ooh, it's all going to be scary kind of stuff. It's all stuff that's been around for a long time now, these themes in Capricorn. Pluto been there since 2008, Saturn been there since 2017. So a lot of this stuff is the culmination of a lot of the things that have been happening and a lot of the things that you'll have been working on or working through. So while this particular Saturn-Pluto aspect has not got very good connotations in terms of world history, and we'll go into that a little bit in a minute, it's not going to come out of nowhere, isn't this? It's got to be one of those where either you could have seen it coming, or like I say, it's a culmination. It's kind of like things coming to a head, and maybe like the final act of a particular drama that's been playing out in your life, or in your smaller or wider world. So what can we expect? Well, if first of all talk about Saturn-Pluto in terms of history, it has been an aspect that's been associated with war. It's also been an aspect associated with redrawing boundaries, redesignating power to different individuals. It is heavy power, basically, this Saturn and Pluto together. Authoritarian. Saturn's all about boundaries, so say drawing boundaries in the sand, saying we will go this far but no further, and if you push those boundaries, we will come back at you. And Pluto being the planet of power and also of transformation. And it does worry you when you see the likes of President Trump warmongering over in Iran when we have this aspect around, because obviously we don't want to see the escalations of any tensions there and any further wars coming to us. Although a lot of what it's about is not really to do with power, it's more to do with resources. As we know, America doesn't really interfere anywhere that doesn't have oil, basically. But let us hope that any kind of escalation is kept to a minimum, and Saturn-Pluto does not live up to its reputation in that respect. We can also see as well on the wider world stage things that are happening in Australia, and the fires there, and what that means is that the line in the sand, which when we finally go enough and no more, we're going to do something about this. And I feel that being particularly the case with Uranus being in the mix this week, because Uranus stations direct on the 10th. And as we said about Uranus in Taurus, it's all about what we do in relation to the Earth and its resources, and how we have new approaches to how we take care of our planet and its resources. So maybe the line in the sand there might be, we're going to finally get to see things happening on a wider scale, rather than Obviously people are trying their best to do things on a smaller scale, making sure that they recycle things, make sure that they have a good carbon footprint, eating less meat. But we need big action on a big scale in order to tackle some of these things. So that's kind of the world, the wider world. And so then if we bring it down to a more sort of personal level, we've got to say there's lots of action towards the end of the week with things. And the first one I would say is the cazimi with Sun and Mercury before the eclipse. And the cazimi often provides us with flashes of insight into how to proceed. So, and I would advise this anyway, if you are at the beginning of starting to look at transits, look at what's happening, look at how they affect you, diary this stuff, write stuff down, and then you can start to see the patterns emerging. It's much easier for you then to look back and go, oh yes, I remember the last time the cazimi happened with Mercury, and this is what I thought, and this is how then it panned out. So make yourself some notes as to, your thoughts, because you might find that, little flashes of insight as you sat in the traffic, or, you're on the tube or you're on the train, might come to you as to how to solve some of these larger issues that are going to be playing out this week. So that would be the first thing to look out for. And also as well, like I said, the Uranus going direct at 2 degrees in Taurus on the 9th, and that providing, say, that's your glimpse into the future. That's the way that things are going. And while there's still a lot of work to do to finish this final act of all this Capricornness that's been lurking around and will continue to lurk around for a good part of this year, it might give you some clues as to where it's all heading, rather than just you being in the thick of it for the present time. So yeah, those two things before the emotions of the eclipse hit in on the 10th. Say, make yourself some notes, because that could be the time where you could be feeling a little more objective, because obviously when the eclipses come, with the involving the moon, things can get a little bit more emotional. And if you want the most mooniest of moons, that would be the moon in Cancer, and that's what we've got as part of this eclipse. So like I say, get the rational thoughts down before the emotions kick in, and that might skew your thoughts later this week. So then, yes, the eclipse. So it's hitting that south node in Capricorn for one of the last times, and also the one that to look for with this eclipse is the north node in Cancer, as providing the kind of emotional comfort which Cancer obviously is very good at, that can, again, it kind of consoles us, and say with it being north node, again, it's looking forward to what can be, and it's how do you look after yourself, how do you make yourself feel secure while all of the Saturn heavy duty stuff goes down. It's like, what way can you make sure that you have the kind of emotional support, the family there, the friends as family, whichever way you look at it, because that's what this is sort of pointing to, really. It's that, and I think I've said before about the stuff, the lessons with the Capricorn piece that are often to do with doing more with less, having quality over quantity, moving away from that kind of material possessions as being what we view as having value in our lives. And what the Cancer North Node is telling us is that there is a lot more to our lives than that, and we have to come back to this idea of comfort through emotional contentment and spirituality and family and the things that are not material. So while we have to concentrate on those in the sense of reining in, having making do with less, or being a bit more careful about what we use and how we use it, it's saying that those things are of lesser importance than the connections that we have. That is what is going to see us through the darkest of times. And those are the things that we should look to for our spiritual comfort in these times. This particular eclipse echoes almost exactly the eclipse that happened in July, around the 20th of July, when we had the last bout of major Cancer Capricorn madness. So if you think back to that time, were the things that were initiated at that time, was that the point in which things started to come to a head? Was that the point that you can look back and go, yes, I can see where the shift is now, this is what I need to be doing? And this then will be repeated through this eclipse, and you will be able to see, well, what have I done? What do I still need to do? Are there things that I have been trying to cling on to that really needs to go now, and that I can't change, I can't alter the path of way things going. It's the way I think about those things that needs to shift. So if you've been trying to say, if your emphasis has been more on the material, being on the more tangible in terms of things that have value in your life, it could be now, could be the time where you see that shift and you want to be able to think more about, well, what's really important in my life are the people in it, and the people who care about me, and the people I care for. So yes, the the effects of this eclipse will be seen throughout the year, because all the themes with Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter in Capricorn will be the main themes for 2020. So anything that comes to a head now will be playing out throughout the year to culminate towards the end of the year when everything finally shifts out of Capricorn. We'll see the slow shift throughout the year. The nodes, the first things to shift. Then we see that glimpse into Saturn in Aquarius. I mean, obviously then when things come back round again and we get a couple of slow grinds with Venus and Mars, causing us a fair few issues later on in the year. But then it will finally be off and gone forever, and we will not be the same once it has gone. We will have changed with it, hopefully, and hopefully for the better. I'm just looking through my notes here to see some of the things that I've written down. Oh, yes, of course, because I mean, after the eclipse and at the time of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, Mercury is very much involved in this as well. And this is what I was saying about being able to articulate, communicate some of these big picture things that are going on and having insight into them. So, throughout the week, you will have got the opportunity to be able to find ways to solve the puzzle that is this big Saturn Pluto piece, and what that actually means for you in your life, and whether that be as part of the bigger picture on the world stage and your small part in it, or things to do with your life and the dramas within your own life that you need to fix and solve and change your attitudes towards. So yes, a lot going down this week, and a lot to be aware of, be careful around. Make sure that you have the emotional backup, if you like, through that Cancer piece, to ensure that you are taking care of yourself within all this madness. Um, I have heard tell of a few people who, in my life, who I know of, who are dealing with massive issues that this Cancer Capricorn piece has brought up, to do with divorce, to do with um, ownership of property, um, to do with children, to do with the law, lots of big issues which started off as a small, not small, very important, but started off with two people falling out of love with each other, and then the consequences of that um, escalating and being then bringing in other people and being played out on a wider stage. And this is the thing about the sort of Saturn Pluto bit, and that kind of link into wider society. It's like what might have started off as a personal issue is now involving other people, bigger structures, bigger organisations, and it has almost been taken out of your hands for the world and its representatives to decide how things are going to go for you. Um, the people I know who are having this particular aspect going down are towards the end of it, and I think that's what I was saying about this is nothing new in the Saturn Pluto piece. These are things that have been going on for quite some time, and this will be, like they said, the culmination, the final hurdle to get through to the other side. For some people, that might not be the answers that they want, but it is what they have to deal with and confront and make the best of. Because, like I say, once things are out of your own hands and into the hands of others, you no longer have control over how those things will pan out. And I say a lot sometimes about Saturn and Pluto for me is accepting what you need to do, even if it's not what you want. It's about I've got to do this. Saturn's about responsibility. Saturn's about, being the adult in this, and you're not necessarily getting what you want. And Pluto can be about the having to deal with the bigger power that is beyond your control, and accepting and having to bear, if you like, the pressures that brings. And it's not nice, and it's not easy, and it's not pleasant. And once you have these big planets involved within your personal life, the events surrounding that, the effects will be with you for years afterwards. And say when you look back, you can see over time that point in which things change forever for you, and nothing will stop the pain of it at that time. It's when you're in it, when it's at its hardest, you feel like things are never going to end for you. But everything changes. Nothing ever stays the same. So even the worst of times, even the things that you think that are never going to come to an end, they will come to an end eventually, and you will come out the other side of it. You might be battered and bruised, but you will come out the other side. And even if at the time it doesn't feel like this is the best thing for you or for those around you, know that that is the right place for you to be at this point, because that is the work that you're going to have to do to either rectify or move on, or change things that are around you. And there has to be a bottom. That's the thing. There has to be the point where you hit the ground, and then you can go no further down, and that you will then have to start climbing back up again. And for a while you will be in the bottom of that pit or wherever it feels like you're in, but you will get out and you will get there. And for some people this week might be one of the most difficult weeks they've had to deal with, but know that once you are out the other side of this, there is a different world emerging, and there is a future to look forward to, even if it doesn't feel that way at this present time. So, whatever you might be dealing with this week, however difficult that might be, know that there is an end in sight. There is some way to go yet. This is kind of like we are in the kind of difficult period of, if you can imagine, if you run in a race, you're nowhere near the finishing line, but you're well over 3/4 of the way there, and that's the point where you feel like you might break. But you have to dig down and dig deep and get over that line, and know that you will be the other side of the mountain. You will be able to see in the distance where that end will be. And there is hope. Jupiter always brings hope, and Jupiter, we're following on from this. And Uranus too, for me, will shine the light into the future and the way forward for this. And like I said, Mercury's there in and amongst all of this to help you solve some of the issues that might be around. So look after yourselves, look after each other. Remember the Cancer part of this equation about taking care of yourself and feeling the love of those who you care about, because those are the things that always get us through everything in our lives. So best of luck for this week, and I shall see you next week, and we'll see how everything pans out and what experiences you all have. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I shall speak to you again soon.